Mr. Clean. Pull up on my whole damn team.
First, like to address the pimple on my face. Shout out to its ability to add some texture to the Caucasian skin, boys. But let's talk about Steep 2. Don't get your panties in a twist here, boys. Steep 2 hasn't even been announced yet. There aren't even really any rumors surrounding if it's going to be announced. I wanted to make this video on the topic of if I think it will be announced, reasons as to why I think it may or may not be, and if it were to be announced, I'd like to talk about the things I would like to see added into the game and also hear your feedback on it as well. Say somebody, you know, headquartered in Ubisoft is scrolling through the comments on this video, sees that there's a park editor in the comments. Maybe, just maybe, that'll be edited into the next iteration. So the biggest question among the community thus far is if Steep should continue to improve and develop new things in the existing game, Steep 1, or they should just scrap this game and make a completely new model, Steep 2, or whatever they're gonna call it. Steep would be a good name, personally, I think. I don't know about you, but it was a fucking phenomenal name. Now, if you actually look where Steep started, the very first thing ever created in the game, it was the Alps. When Steep came out, Alaska, Asia, none of that existed. It was just strictly the Alps. And if you're looking at this from strictly a park perspective, a park rat, hood rat's perspective, this game was absolute trash. Like, backcountry-wise, absolutely insane, phenomenal. You could go anywhere you want in this crazy world here. But saying the park scene of this game was alright would be the absolute biggest lie of 2019. Case example uno. Look at this! Apparently this block of cheddar cheese is considered a jump by the Steep developers. I don't know about you, but pretty much a full downhill decline to a big upwards hit. I don't think that's safe, I don't think that's logical, and I don't think that's realistic. If Steep could ever be realistic. Sorry mom, I'm gonna go hit my first jump for the first time, but going up on the in run, you're just gonna blow both your knees out like fan-frickin-tastic. This abrupt transition is absolutely atrocious and not in the positive way. Now actually skiing it, like, it's truly not that bad. You can still pop some butters on it. You can still manage to get some nice tricks. It's not that big of a deal. At the end of the day, a jump's job is to soar you into orbit, and I think these do a pretty good job at it. But just because something does its job doesn't mean it's necessarily enjoyable. They could have made the jumps so much better, and that's pretty much exactly what they ended up doing if you start looking at the Road to Olympics jumps and the X Games DLC. Further, rails were non-existent in the Alps. Steep first came out, there weren't any sort of rails, any sort of rail scene, except for the tree logs that, you know, you could slide upon. You know, they presented some rail dynamics, but truly, in an actual rail sense, there was nothing. Behold your horses! Steep came to the rescue. They heard our battle cries. They heard our kinks. They heard our needs. And they took the fattest shit of slopestyle park features you could ever imagine. The Road to Olympics was born, boys. DLC came with the Olympic slopestyle park that had some of the best rail features ever known to this game. Developers held and cradled the previous jumps that they created and handed them to Cleopatra that made some of the most beautiful pieces of art known to this game. The landings were no longer as flat as my ass. The takeoffs were curved in angular perfection. If you put a protractor on the jump, it would literally seep tears. Not only the Olympics, it came with a whole new massive, Asia. A bunch of new slopestyle parks were added into the game. Half pipes, cannon rails, flat bars, down bars. All of your wildest dreams came true. All of this added up to what is now the slopestyle ski scene of Steep. Obviously, the X Games DLC came out with a bunch of new different rail features and revised shape jumps with more of a step-up type feel, but just to save time, I'm not going to go over it. Alright, Nick, this is all fan-flippin-tastic. How does this relate to Steep 2? So like I previously stated, the two biggest arguments is that Steep creates a whole new game, or they just continue to add content to the previous game they already have. Now, coming from my point of view, Steep has changed so much over the past years, as we've clearly noticed. This game came out late 2016, it's almost a 3-year-old game, What it is now is completely different from what it was when it first came out. It had a massive amount of innovation and development in terms of the park and in terms of just trick dynamics that has morphed it into something that consumers really started to enjoy. The developers have been able to figure out what the people like, what its customer base likes, and the things that they don't like. And truly, if I'm looking at it sort of just from this bird's eye view of going past and seeing how it's changed, the game kind of feels like a testing ground. So that's what makes me sort of lean over to the side that there will be a new iteration, there will be a Steep 2. That will be a clean slate with basically the properties that they now know, that they've now tested, that make a solid game and people enjoy. But they very well could just keep going on and creating new content like they've been adding with the new DLCs. Say Steep 2 comes out, the things I would love to see are hands down a park editor. A park editor, a park editor, park editor, park editor. I can't say it enough. Those of you guys that have been with me for a long time know my burning passion for this thing to be a reality in the game. I know a lot of you guys want it to. If you look at Skate 3, a game that is still notoriously popular to this day, this amount of growth stemmed from the creativeness of that game. Players could literally pick from a solid playground of features and create some of the gnarliest parks, features, things, games, whatever you wanted to create, you could do it in that game. And that's why people loved it. Take that and put it into a game like Steep and holy crap, you're going to be making some fat stacks of cash. Even if you were just given the opportunity to go out into the mountain and just build small kickers around the mountains, I actually saw a Reddit post on this, that would be sufficient. Now the next topic is going to be based on creativity as well. I think I'm starting to sense a theme here. Creativity. A grab creator. Those of you that have played Shred Sauce before will know exactly what I'm talking about. But for those of you that don't know, Shred Sauce is another skiing game that actually allows you to create and generate your own grabs. The game presents you with a model of your character that you can go in and actually craft each limb and parts of your skis to do whatever it is you want. This would allow for backslides to be a possibility on rails, hand drags off of knuckles, sails, Cubans, Screamin' Siemens, Genie grabs. List is just gonna keep going on and on, boys. It would be so sick and so revolutionary to have this in a big title like Steep. I literally think this would increase the obesity rate of the population just because none of us would leave our computers after having this implemented in the game. I think this is a bit of a stretch actually coming to the game. I think there is a slight chance it actually could though, especially with the 90s DLC coming out showing us that it is fairly easy to actually change the character's grabs. They basically added Daffy's Cossacks and Iron Crosses into the game as if it was literally nothing. So just come up with a framework that allows you to do that on your own game, and you're set, buddy. And lastly, we're gonna touch on another creativity factor. Creativity. I really don't know about you, but I'm starting to see a common theme here. Addition of really good character development and character creation in Steep 2. Now this is sort of coming off of Skate 3's character profile makeup. If any of you guys have played Skate 3, you'll know that you could literally craft anything from the size of your nose, the girth of your chin, create different clothes, outfits, boards, non-stop creativity in that game for what you could do to your character. I think that's a big area where Steep actually is falling off. Well, there are a lot of cool costumes, a lot of cool outfits that have been edited into the game, so that's really cool to see. But in terms of the actual individuality of creating, that's been lacking. For example, you can't really go in and create your own graphics on a jacket. You're stuck with the single body type that your character is. You literally can't change anything about the body type. It would be really sick to have a big hunk of man hucking himself off a big booter. The addition of allowing players to do this not only really makes the game their own individual game, but it also create a lot of diversity. You know, maybe some tricks actually would look really cool with this body type versus this body type. It would add a whole new level of style into the game. How your character looked would be its own style. It would almost be, you know, synonymous with different skiers across the board. At the end of the day, these three main things that I'd like to see added into Steep 2, park editor, a grab creator, and just further character creation, it all again comes down to that stupid word creativity. That word, that theme, that is what drives a game's success. Whether it's one, two, or all three of those things, it's all going to contribute into making that game your own and ultimately just making it a way better experience. Now, this is just my take on it. Again, I don't know if Steep 2 will be coming out in the future. That's just my personal thoughts, my personal opinions on what I think will happen in the future. And if there theoretically was a Steep 2, that's what I would like to see added into the game. Boys, you know I love ya. And you know the good Lord upstairs loves you too. Okay, we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, my peeps.